Well, hello, everyone. Happy Thursday to you all. Glad you could join us today for this very exciting webinar that's focusing on the value of Wattics targeted at governments. We're going to wait about a minute before I get started. That way we have a bit of a grace period for those of you that are, well, those of you that are on, thank you for being prompt and on time, but we're just going to wait a minute for those that are still logging in and joining. So we'll get started in about a minute. This webinar today will be about a half hour. We will be recording the webinar and can send it to you as a follow-up for if you want to review it again or share it with coworkers or colleagues. Happy to send you the recording. This is one of many video series that we're doing and webinar series that we're doing on Wattics. This webinar is specifically targeted for government. We're going to be starting another webinar series in a few weeks on our new product called Carbon Hub. So for those of you that have not heard of Carbon Hub, be on the lookout for emails promoting those webinars as well. Very new, great, exciting tool that we developed to help you do carbon reporting. So we'll be scheduling more webinars on that topic. We'll get started in maybe 30 seconds. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to join this webinar. We'll get started. We're just waiting for a couple more folks to log in. Webinar will be about a half hour, so I'm going to get started here shortly in the interest of time. Okay. Thanks for attending today's webinar. This webinar is an overview of Wattics with a specific focus on governments. I'm John Heinz, VP of Strategic Accounts for EnergyCAP. Our company, EnergyCAP, we have a very focused and deliberate mission. Our mission is to provide technology-enabled solutions that allow you to track your energy and sustainability data to get value out of that data, to help you better manage consumption, to reduce carbon footprint, and to help you drive cost savings. So we develop, sell, support our suite of products that we label as Energy and Sustainability ERP. We're very proud to announce the next generation of our products. We've been supporting and developing EnergyCAP for over 40 years. We now have two additional family members. One of them is Wattics, which we will be talking about today, but we've also announced the platform of Carbon Hub, which is a deep dive into sustainability and greenhouse gas accounting and analytics. So the suite of our products, the EnergyCAP, which is, again, been around for over 40 years, is predominantly tracking utility bill information and monthly data to allow for robust aggregate and portfolio level reporting. Then we have Carbon Hub that's doing sustainability and GHG reporting. And then today's fun topic, which is Wattics, which is a deep dive into real-time interval data and interval data analytics. So all of these are complementary with one another. It's only part of the picture to look at your bill, your utility bills on a monthly basis, or your consumption and cost on a monthly basis. What Wattics helps you do is to see what's happening in your buildings and with your equipment in real time, to pinpoint problems, and then you can start addressing those problems. So then later on, hopefully you start to see a reduction or savings on your utility bill when you finally get it after the fact. We also provide capture services to help our clients capture interval data or utility bill data and load those into the systems. So what is Wattics? Wattics is a real-time interval data analysis and sustainability tool. It allows you to capture data from devices, from meters, data from your utility companies, from existing systems like building automation systems, building control systems, wherever you would have hardware installed or sensors installed that are capturing intervals for consumption. Those bits of data can be connected with the Wattics platform and then monitored. So you can monitor your data, detect outliers. There's alarming and alerting on that data as it's flowing in to alert you of problems in real time. So you can start addressing those problems in real time. And if you're addressing these problems, then you can start savings and realizing savings. So there's the ability to report on savings, to do measurement and verification of savings, but also to help drive opportunities for savings by schedule optimization, better managing your demand, and then calculating savings potentials. So a lot of great capabilities within the platforms to allow you to capture, monitor, and save on your consumption. Let's talk more generally. Why should you track interval data? Why is it important? We have been serving governments for a long, long time. We're serving, roughly 30 of the top 50 municipal governments by population. So we have vast experience with large governments. We serve a lot of, mid or smaller governments as well. We serve state governments, federal governments. So we have a lot of data, a lot of experience. We understand specifically in the government markets that access to interval data isn't always there. We'll talk later about the ability to capture interval data for if you don't have access to it. But let's just at least focus on the value of interval data right now. So some of the value streams that allow you to drive savings with interval data and what you can do with it is you can really quickly spot facility or scheduling or equipment problems. So if you look at a utility bill, kind of low-hanging fruit for tracking consumption and demand and cost information. But what that doesn't tell you is where you consume the most usage, where is the higher peaks throughout the month, what pieces of equipment were driving the consumption or demand values to be where they are. So it's really difficult to understand the behavior of how your buildings are performing on a utility bill. Interval data gives you that answer. It lets you see when systems are turning on, where they're peaking out at, when they're turning off, what nightly setbacks look like, what specific zones within your building are doing, what pieces of equipment are doing. It can be your eyes and your ears. It's working 24/7 to help monitor your usage. We get that a lot of you are understaffed and could use more help. What this application allows you to do is basically, it functions almost like a full-time employee of yours that's constantly monitoring your data and then alerting you of the areas to go check out and spotting issues to help you optimize your building performance and address problems, and hopefully address problems even before they really are problems. So as you start to creep up on water leaks or demand spikes in buildings, you can be alerted and take action prior to having a bad spike in demand that then sets your demand rate for the next month or even for the year. So a lot of tools built in to be helping you and your team to optimize the performance in your building. What else can it do? Well, it can spot equipment cycling on and off. It can pinpoint early startup schedules or not deep enough setbacks. For many of you, you might not understand if your buildings are operating on the weekends. Maybe some of the systems are turning on when no one is in the building because it's shut down over the weekend. So this would help you identify those time periods where the building should be set back and turned off, but maybe it's not. And maybe custodial crews come in and turn on equipment and lights and everything, and then forget to turn off the HVAC or lighting. This can help you spot those types of problems. It can help you spot utility theft. We have numerous examples of our government clients where they have, in various neighborhoods, utility theft going on, where, some of the residents are tapping into power lines and things like that. It's kind of an interesting problem, but this can help you solve some of those issues and pinpoint theft. A lot more that it can do. So realize there's a lot of value in tracking interval data. Okay, so let's talk specifically about Wattics. Wattics allows you to connect to any of your existing systems. We have services to get data from your utility companies if you don't have any existing systems or access to data currently. But realize the platform can connect to a whole variety of hardware, different types of systems. You can do file exchanges, can connect to systems through APIs. So there's a lot of ways to get data. We're also hearing more and more from governments about tracking solar and PV, and also for EV charge stations. So if you're being pressured to provide EV charge stations to the public, and some of those are tapping into your buildings, how do you manage that and monitor that and separate some of that consumption and maybe cost from your master bill? We're also hearing from clients that are swapping their fleet vehicles from gas powered to electric, and then they have to create a whole EV infrastructure to charge all their fleets, and then they want to cost allocate. So again, all of these are challenges we're hearing about that Wattics helps to solve. For those of you that don't have sub-meters or sensors or devices installed that you can tap into, we represent some hardware, so we can meet with you and talk about what types of buildings you want to monitor, what some of the loads and the profiles of those buildings are, and then we can make recommendations, and you can actually purchase hardware or meters through us. So we act as a reseller for some meters. These meters we can recommend can track 1 point in a building. Some of them can track up to 6 points in a building. We had a local, a city government of ours that wanted to start tracking interval data. They didn't have meters installed. So they came to us and said, hey, we've identified some really important municipal multi-use buildings that we want to start monitoring. We want to start with 5 buildings to see how it goes, but we need some meters. So we spec'd it out with them. We identified meters, and so we're ordering equipment, getting them installed, and then these devices communicate just through the internet from the buildings directly to Wattics to post readings in real time. So the end takeaway point is, if you need meters, we can work with you. It's a one-time purchase to acquire the meters, and then you connect them through the internet, Wi-Fi or Ethernet. You can do some of them through cell services as well, and they just connect right to the database and load data. So a lot of options out there if you connecting to existing systems, or if you don't have hardware, we can make some recommendations and bundle that as part of the solution. Some of the additional features that I'll be demoing are real-time alerting and alarming, Sentinel, which is machine learning. It learns your historical patterns and then applies some logic to it and creates a expected profile for each point or each meter that's being tracked. So really nice to see historically and kind of proactively what a reasonable trend looks like, and then how you're performing actual versus this trend. It does measurement and verification of savings, meeting IPMVP and ISO standards. Heat mapping, you can create formula calculations. If you want to do some advanced analysis, it can track indoor air quality. Sometimes, that can be really important for some of the buildings, especially with, recent COVID protocols and things like that. You can track indoor air quality if you have the right devices, to monitor the air. There's a tariff engine that allows you to build tariffs, run what-if scenarios, and track your costs as it's compared to your interval data and tracking time of use charges and various rate schedules. Load profiling, dashboarding, tracking actions, doing schedule optimization, and then kind of lastly, if you have any bad or missing data, it can help you identify gaps in data and fill it based on the Sentinel trending. So for any of you that are already doing some analysis with interval data, you can understand sometimes meters go offline and you have issues. Well, we have the tools to backfill some of that missing data. So then, you always have complete data all the time. And we'll go over all this right now as we dive into the actual application. So let's take a look at Wattics. Okay, so I am logged into Wattics. Wattics is a web-based application. We are a SaaS company, so we're providing software as a service. That's exactly what Wattics is. You would have a login to however many users you need to within your organization. You can set user roles and permissions for each one of your users. So that way you can give them access to bits of data and parts of the program, but you don't need to give them access to everything. For those of you that are EnergyCAP subscribers, we're deploying single sign-on, so you can log into the EnergyCAP environment and then jump from Wattics to EnergyCAP, maybe to Carbon Hub if you're subscribing to that too. So realize if you're using Wattics and any of our other products, you can log in and use your same login to jump and switch between applications. Also, data can be shared between applications as well. So if you have a building in Wattics or in EnergyCAP, you can share bits of information. So what we're looking at here, there's many different analysis dashboard screens throughout the application. We're just looking at a building where it's tracking, today and how it's the total consumption today, what the consumption is for the month, and then just some air quality factors. So this is a building that's actually looking at some of the air quality factors within it. So it's just tracking, how good the air is. So this is some of the results that we're trying to get within the application. It's just a sneak peek of maybe the end result of where we're trying to get. How to get there. So the Wattics application allows you to set up a tree structure. So you can have organizational levels. So for governments, it could be departments. And then underneath the departments, you can have buildings. And then underneath buildings, you would have the points, the commodities that you're tracking. Wattics is not really, limited in what it can track. You can track your core commodities, so electric, gas, water, steam, chilled water. You can also track things like air quality or other types of KPIs, occupancy. It can track floor area. It can track production. It can track temperature. A bunch of different variables. So you have the flexibility to track what you want in this tree structure. So these are all points and they're linked to a building. We have some other examples where, let's say, I was showing earlier indoor air quality. Well, you can track indoor air quality, and then you have all these different parameters that you're tracking in regards to that. You can track things like the operation of HVAC and then all the subcomponents of it. So Wattics lets you structure data a lot of different ways for the purposes of tracking a piece of equipment, line of, or something else. It's very flexible in how you set up data. Okay. What I'm showing here, you have the tree structure to the left, you have analytics, and views in the center. Over to the right, you have filters. So this part of the application is just showing the raw interval data. So for this meter, this would be a coffee bar example within a building. If you have a picture like a Starbucks in a building where you're looking at a profile where you have the interval data coming in, the system turns on at like 5 in the morning. The employees are firing up the coffee stations and getting coffee brewed. And then we peak out at usage throughout the morning, and then everything starts to shut down around lunchtime when the Starbucks is starting to dial things back for the day and start to shut down. And then you have your shutdown. So that's really what we're looking at, is just a profile of interval data coming in. So this starting tool, if I wanted to look at what the data looks like today, today's March 2nd, this is the profile for today, live data coming in for today. You can select, you might want to look at data on a daily basis. You can look at it on a weekly basis, maybe a monthly basis, so you can pick the interval and start to look at trends. If you have the need to look at your demand and see when your demand spikes are, because you want to start curtailing and limiting some of your demand spikes for rate tracking or for bill tracking and savings purposes, you can select any time period and then tell the system to find, let's say, a 15-minute average peak or a 30-minute average peak throughout whatever time period you select. So this helps you pinpoint the times when some of these events occur, and then you can drill into that day and start looking further. So you can look at this in a lot of different ways. For electric meters, if you're tracking, your meter is tracking things like power factor, voltage, current, other types of power quality factors, they also get charted here. So this is, again, raw data coming in, and you can look at it a lot of different ways. When you look at these charts within the application, you'll see a menu icon up here. At any time, you can download the images. You can also download the raw data. So if I wanted the interval data that's behind this chart, I can run that export to Excel and then open it. And then I have all of my raw data for the chart that I just created. So it looks like this. So you'll notice that throughout the application. If you ever need to export data, really easy to build the time periods and the views you want to export, and then get the raw data. Okay, as this raw data is coming in, there's alarms and alerts that get triggered and set on the data to alert you of problems. So let's talk about these. There's three types of main detections. The first one is an offline detection. So what this is doing is saying, for any one of your points, send an email to a user when the system doesn't receive a reading, and you can select the interval. You might want to say, well, I don't really need to be alerted, if we missed a reading over a 5-minute period, but let's say after one full day, if I haven't received readings, then I want to be alerted so I can go take a look at the meter, see if it's just offline due to an internet or connectivity issue, if the meter's malfunctioning or whatever it is. If you're importing files too, could be that the importer, isn't triggering, automation failed or something like that. So this is just allowing you to identify when data is not flowing in. Particularly important when you're tracking things in real time or near real time, because you don't want to have gaps in data. So that's one type of alarm. The second is a custom detection. So for this type of detection, you set the threshold. So again, sticking with my coffee bar area in a building, I can say, do I want when a threshold's met, or when a cumulative threshold is met, and then you define what the threshold is. So for my electric meter, what variable, maybe it's the demand. When demand hits a certain threshold, then I want to receive an alert. And you can tell the system what times of the day are best for you to receive alerts and what days of the week. You might have some alerts that are important for you on off-peak hours, and others that are important during peak hours when you or others are around and within your buildings. You can then tell the system to say, how do you want to receive alerts? A notification on a dashboard, an email, or a text message. So you control all of these alerts and detections. So that's the second way. The last way is an unexpected value based on what we call Sentinel. So this will allow you to have some configuration to say, when do you want to be alerted and what are we alerting? If it's above, below, if it's outside of the sentinel view. So you can configure these to say, you know what, Wattics, you do this monitoring for me. You just tell me if this is a problem. I don't want to set my own threshold. You tell me based on the machine learning algorithm for what's reasonable for every point. You tell me what's an outlier and then flag it and send me an alarm. So what we mean by that. So what's Sentinel, right? This is a look at Sentinel. So what this is for this point, the green is the Sentinel bar, so the profile that gets created by the system, and the black is the actual, so the actual consumption for the day. The green is a learned algorithm over time, looking at days of the week, seasonality, some other factors to say what is a reasonable profile for this point on this day. So this is Thursday. This is the profile it created. If I go back in time, you'll notice actually on Wednesdays, it has a bit of a different profile because apparently on Wednesdays, it has a little weird peak in the afternoon, a manager's meeting in the afternoon. So they need systems to be on, I don't really know, but it's a different profile because Wednesday just is a little different than Thursdays for this coffee bar. Okay. So the profile's, very specific for days and all those things that I'd mentioned. So this is tracking the expected load and then the actual, and those alarms can alert you if it falls outside, above or below the Sentinel. So really, really helpful to help do the proactive work for you to say what's reasonable, and if something falls outside of that, alarm and alert you so you can take action. So let's say I got an alarm. What do you do now? Okay, yeah, my usage went above, like right here. It turned on at midnight. Why? What do you do about that? Well, what we can then do is go to the analyzer tool. So this allows you to slice and dice the data a million different ways. So this is looking, at my February, daily usage, and it rolls it up to a monthly total. So this is taking my 5-minute interval data, rolling it up to a daily and monthly total. You could break this down again into a daily profile. This is looking at a bar ranking. I could look at this from a line chart. I can then down below, let's say, I want to identify a time of day. Down below, this is where, it's really nice. You can start taking action on these things. I could say, for today, let's call it at, between the hours of 5 and call it 7 a.m., Adam Wetzel was supposed to make sure the system did not turn on. So here, I can make a note. I can tag Adam. I can then save it. So what happened now is Adam just got an email from me. And what we can then do is overlay on top of this chart the time period that I just selected. So this was the time period. Basically I'm saying, hey, this the systems were not supposed to turn on during this time period. It did. So then Adam can take a look at this. He can look at the chart. He can then come in and reply and add notes and follow up on the issue. So there's a whole work order system with noting and tagging built into the system for follow-up. This charting tool then, goes well beyond that. I can start clicking around to different points and everything just starts loading on the chart. And I can look at the data a lot of different ways. So you can aggregate data, you can compare time periods, you have the choice of how you want to view the data. Once you select what you want to look at, and so let's say I want to look at these 3 meters from a cost standpoint, or maybe a CO2 standpoint, real time, carbon standpoint, and then I want to save this to a dashboard. I have my view. I can go here and say, well, let's save this to a dashboard. When I save it, it goes to a dashboard view, and then I can look at this in a dashboard. So now I have all these widgets and views that I've saved to a dashboard that I can come here, look at it anytime. I can also give this URL to others outside of the program so they can access it, but they don't need login credentials. You can also embed this in a municipal website if you need to. So a lot of really powerful capabilities, regarding dashboarding and viewing. A couple other features I want to show. One of them is a schedule optimization tool. So this provides, I'm just going to stick with my coffee bar example. This provides a heat map of, and I'm going to go to last month. So this would be the February 2023 heat map for this meter. The dark bars represent an hourly, a 15-minute total of, usage. The dark bars represent, the dark shading represents high intensity usage. The lighter represents less intensive usage. So then what you can do is you can see when your usage is most intense, and up above, you can start to run some what if scenarios. So let's say, in this case, I'm normally shut down over the weekends. I would imagine a lot of your buildings are shut down as well, at least need to be set back pretty deeply over the weekends. So what I can do is say, let's pick Sunday and Saturday, and let's say I reduce the consumption on those days by 70% just throughout the day. I can then save my schedule. It would save the heat map and say, this is what your profile would look like. And then it will give me expected savings. So if I could make that type of setback, my usage consumption would have gone down by 651 kilowatt hours, or a 20% reduction for the month. And then I can apply cost to it and say, I would have saved $273. So you can run what if scenarios for every month, and then go to the building level and then run some analysis to say, for all of these changes that I can maybe make in zones or with equipment, what would I save? And you can get your totals. So very nice capabilities to run some what if scenarios. Two more capabilities I'll show. One of them is M&V, so the measurement and verification of savings. So let's say you are in fact making changes in your building, or you've purchased, you're doing a lighting retrofit or a larger HVAC retrofit or something like that. What this allows you to do is both option B and option C IP/MVP. So you can track projects, and then for every one of your projects, you can provide definition. What is the project? What is the actual conservation measure, the ECM? You establish a base period. You establish a reporting period. And then the system can create a model. So this is a multiple variable regression, that you can take into account production, occupancy, hours of operation, days of the week, heating and cooling degree days, and it creates a model. It will then trend for your baseline period, what the calculated model, how that compares to the measurement, so the actual interval data. And then you implemented your ECM, and then it'll show the post. So the red is the model, the green is your actual interval data, so the actual measured values. So it shows you just, how reasonable the model is. And in this case, it trends pretty nicely, so you can have some confidence in the model. And then down below, it'll say what you saved, during your savings period compared to base. And then it rolls everything up to a nice report. So then you can have a total report, reporting your savings, your payback period, and all other details. Okay, last thing I'll mention is the tool has a lot of reports built into it. So you can run reports, you can schedule these to automatically be emailed to stakeholders or to yourself on whatever kind of interval you want. So you can run these reports and then send them out, and they provide various levels of further analysis. Okay, last Couple slides that I want to end with today. Let me blow them up. It's just really about pricing. If you're interested in moving forward with Wattics, realize there is a subscription fee, so an annual fee, and then a one-time fee. The annual fee, there's a platform fee for $4,200 a year that covers hosting, access to support, and upgrades. And then we charge per point. So all of those points I was showing earlier, it's, we need to work with you to say how many do you need to track. And then we establish a per point fee times the number of points to get your total fee for the year, and then add the platform fee. So that would be how we calculate subscription fees. And then one-time services really depend on what systems we need to connect with, or if you need meters, and for us to add that as part of the purchase. So our sales team can work with you to spec out and scope all of these details and provide a proposal, that meets your needs. We will end there today. I really appreciate your time and for you exploring Wattics and all of our EnergyCAP solutions. Thank you very much. Have a good day.